now, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our presenter, John Anderson. John is a highly respected and recognized professional in the baking industry with over 30 years of experience in food safety, equipment design, occupational safety management, and regulatory compliance. Serving the Bakery Equipment Assessment Group as managing consultant, John directs the equipment assessment and evaluation process in which bakery equipment manufacturers certify their equipment conforms to the ANSI ASB Z52 sanitary design standard for bakery equipment. I'll hand it off to you now, John.
Okay. All right. Well, Connie, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. And I'd like to thank all the people that are attending the seminar. I do appreciate the time you're taking away from your jobs and from your work day. And I hope you'll find the webinar helpful and informative. So let's go ahead and get started. What I would like to discuss today will include what we're trying to accomplish at BEAG and what our basis is for determining effective equipment design that will promote product safety and help to prevent food safety issues for the wholesale and retail bakers. We'll also talk about the criteria for equipment design. You know, Tani mentioned the standard, the ANSI/ASB Z50.2-2015 bakery equipment sanitation requirements. And this standard as well is the basis for our criteria. This standard's evolved into what we use today, and it's taken some time for that to happen. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later and what that includes. We're also going to discuss the reasons for certifying your equipment and the process that you'll go by or go through for equipment certification. And as Tani mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to submit them as Tani has instructed you. So what is the Bakery Equipment Assessment Group? Well, our primary goal is to partner with equipment manufacturers and provide a method or a process by which equipment can be evaluated and allow the equipment manufacturer to show that their design of their equipment conforms to a set of rigorous design standards for cleanability and hygiene. Food safety efforts at the wholesale and retail bakeries are vital to our industry. Our reputation basically is on the line. The efforts that go into producing safe, quality products at the bakery are highly involved. They're complex, they're ongoing, and they're highly scrutinized. And I have always emphasized that at the core, proper and effective hygienic design for bakery production equipment is the most fundamental level of all food safety and quality efforts. Without sound and effective equipment design for sanitation and safety, the work to maintain the safe products that we as consumers have come to expect is reflected in increased labor, increased downtime, and potentially increased risk to the consumer. It is with this in mind that BEAG has established the criteria for assessing and evaluating equipment design so that the equipment manufacturer can show their customer the equipment conforms to a demanding set of standards for hygienic design. Our secondary goal, and it is a goal just as important to us as providing an equipment certification process for equipment manufacturers, our secondary goal will be to partner with wholesale and retail bakers to give them the opportunity to select equipment that meets a design standard and that can provide them a higher level of safety and productivity. We'll also provide guidance with equipment modifications and installation so they are equipped to maintain a high level of product safety in their facilities. BEAG has evolved from the Baking Industry Sanitation Standards Committee, or BISC, to provide a much needed method of showing not only bakers, but also third-party food safety inspectors, health inspectors, and FDA regulatory compliance officers that the equipment used in our industry conforms to a comprehensive and detailed set of design standards that enhance food safety and protect the consumer. BISC was acquired by the American Society of Bakery Engineers in early 2022. ASB provides the association management services to BEAG, but BEAG is a separate corporation and has assumed the equipment certification process formerly managed by BISC and AIB International. Over the past few years, the process of equipment certification and the determination of conformance to a design standard was not given the attention that it needed and it deserved. BEAG is working to bring the value of effective equipment design back into focus for our industries. The old BISC standards are gone. In fact, they haven't been used or in effect since 2003. 2003, the ASB Z50 committee was formed, and it began the process of improving the standards. The Z50 committee utilized the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI, the ANSI rulemaking process to give the standards more prestige and respect. And I'm going to speak more to the rulemaking process as we go along. But by using the ANSI rulemaking process, the committee revitalized the standards, updated and modernized the standards, and made them reflective of how wholesale and retail bakeries operate today. New processes were considered, new equipment was included, current methods of hygienic design were added, balanced group of equipment design engineers, wholesale and retail bakers, and food safety experts came together to make the current standards highly effective, widely recognized as the preeminent standards for the hygienic design of bakery equipment. I need to mention that ASB is the secretariat for the ANSI Z50.2 standard, which is the design standard for bakery equipment, and also the Z50.1 standard, which is the occupational safety standard. ASB and the Z50 committee manage the process of maintaining the integrity of the standard and following the ANSI rulemaking process requirements. This is an ongoing process that you can become involved with. So as I mentioned earlier, our industry wrote the design standards that we use for hygienic equipment design. ANSI did not write the standards. ANSI creates the process by which our industry writes the standard. Experts from the bakery equipment manufacturing industry, wholesale and retail bakers, and food safety experts from the baking industry come together, and over several months, and over the several months developed the standard that we use today. But as a critical part of the ANSI rulemaking process, there are 10 essential requirements for due process required in writing any industry standard. And I focused on what I believe to be the 5 most relevant criteria to this discussion. The first one that I want to talk about is openness. Anyone from our industry, any baker, equipment manufacturer, food safety expert, anybody can be a part of the Z50 committee. Anyone can comment on the standard, make suggestions for improvement. They can question the criteria. They can make suggestions for change to the standard. Anyone is free to contribute. You don't have to join the committee, although we would encourage you to join and we'd love for you to be there. And there is also no membership fee for joining the committee. But any person associated with the industry, shape or form, can be a part of it. It's just wide open to everybody. The other criteria that we need to follow is a lack of dominance. We need to show that there isn't any one particular group that dominates this committee. The committee works to keep an even number of interest groups represented. In fact, it's a critical aspect that ANSI reviews on a periodic basis when they inspect and audit our processes. And the process is designed to maintain the integrity of the standard. So a lack of dominance is extremely important for this. And along with that goes a balance. And I've mentioned it before, but it's worth mentioning. And again, the ASB Z50 committee maintains a balance of equipment manufacturers, wholesale and retail bakers, and food safety experts to ensure that we maintain the standard in a manner that does not favor any one interest or business group or focus over another. And in the 20 plus years that I've been involved with this committee, the groups have always worked well together, and the intent and goal of maintaining a sound and effective standard for our industry has been paramount in their objectives. The next item that we have to follow is that all views and objections are considered. And I apologize for the typo there. That's on me. Objectives should read objections. The committee takes in all expressed views of the standard. Any objections to the standard or the criteria, any objections or suggestions for improvement made by any participant or any industry person, we review each individual comment and viewpoint and consider them. And if there's a consensus vote by the committee members to make that change, then the change is made. This is a living document. It can change, and you have the power to implement change or additions to the criteria if you feel it's necessary. The standard only improves when it is constantly reviewed and updated to keep pace with new ideas, new methods, new technologies, and new information in science. All changes and additions to the standard and all changes to the rulemaking procedures require a consensus vote by the committee in order for this to go into effect. These votes are documented and available for us to review. I want to take some time and talk a little bit about the ANSI standard itself. I want to talk about where it came from and where it's heading. This is just kind of a short history on the origins of the ANSI Z50.2 bakery equipment sanitation requirements. World War II was over. It ended, and the baking industry enjoyed a huge amount of growth in a very short amount of time. Fast food restaurants were becoming very popular, and the baking industry grew along with the renewed peace and the surging economy that happened at that time. In 1949, the baking industry came together to write equipment design standards for our industry. The feeling was that if we didn't develop our own industry standards, the federal government would develop standards for us and without our input. The fear was that if the government developed the standards, they would place an unnecessarily high burden of compliance on our industry. So the industry associations, the American Bakers Association, American Institute of Baking, the Bakery Equipment Manufacturers Association, Biscuit and Cracker Manufacturers Association, and the Retail Bakers Association came together and developed the voluntary standards for sanitary design and the construction of bakery equipment. And since then, there have been several updates and improvements to the standard. From 1977 to 1998, the standard was reviewed and updated several times and somewhat consistently over those years. But the changes didn't go quite far enough to really show the improvements the industry needed to keep up with events in food safety and new design technologies. So in 2002, the industry felt it was time to make an important move. The criteria needed improvement to maintain the respectability of the standard. There was also the possibility that the National Sanitation Foundation, or NSF, was going to write their own ANSI standard for bakery equipment design and implement a costly and lengthy process of equipment design testing, verification, and validation, including cleaning process tests and swab testings for pathogens. So as a result, the Z50 committee was formed and the ANSI rulemaking process was followed to provide our industry with a much improved and relevant standard for design. It was updated again in 2008, 2013, and 2015. In 2015, the ASB and Z50 committee organized a team of working groups to update the standard. The working groups each took sections of the ANSI standard and made numerous updates, additions, and modifications to the standard. This process took a total of 2 years to complete. And most recently, the standard was reviewed by the Z50 committee in 2020, providing us with the current standard that we work with today as our guidance document for equipment assessment and certification. We feel that the work that has gone into making this a highly effective, one-of-a-kind standard has added a great deal of value to our industry. The standard has six sections. Section 1 gives us the basic criteria for bakery equipment. Section 1 will explain the scope and purpose of the standard and explains how it is applied to new and existing equipment. Section 2 provides definitions that explain terms and phrases found in the text of the standard. And Section 5 provides some of the existing and relevant standards that are referenced in the text and other relevant criteria from other standards that are also referenced in this standard. But it's Section 3 and Section 4 that provide the focus for hygienic design of production equipment. And these are the two most important sections that you need to pay attention to when you're reviewing the standard. All equipment that you wish to evaluate and recognize as conforming to the ANSI Z50.2 standard will have to comply and conform to the criteria in Section 3. These are the general principles of design and construction. This section includes criteria within the product zone and the non-product zone, and it'll also provide guidance on instruction for cleaning and cleaning in place systems or CIP systems. Section 4 is titled Specific Principles of Design. In the baking industry, as you know, we have many different kinds of equipment, and each perform functions and each are designed differently. Section 4 addresses these differences with criteria specific to bakery equipment. Section 4 is not an exception to Section 3, as some might believe. Section 4 is in addition to Section 3. And if and only if there is an applicable standard in Section 4 that applies to the equipment we wish to certify. So for example, if you wish to certify an oven, for example, or a deck oven, you would comply with Section 3 and the appropriate standard in Section 4 that addresses ovens and deck ovens. Same with slicers, molders, rounders, proof boxes, all kinds of different types of equipment that we have. Section 4 will identify the specific criteria that is in addition to Section 3. I do believe that it's valuable spent reviewing Section 3 and the relevant standards in Section 4 so that you can become familiar with the criteria your equipment must comply with or conform to. So why should I certify my bakery equipment? There's several reasons. I feel that by certifying your equipment with BEAG and more importantly, designing equipment that conforms to the ANSI Z50.2 standard, you provide the baker with the ability to select equipment that will help form the foundation of their food safety and product quality programs. The baker understands how equipment design is fundamental to their efforts to maintain their brand name and product image with the consumer. Easy to clean equipment allows production of baked goods to achieve efficiencies that can't be achieved with outdated or non-conforming equipment. Equipment cleaning is faster and more efficient. Product changeover is faster and more efficient. Efficient cleaning gives back more time to production and maintenance, and that's valuable to the baker. With allergens as a major concern for bakers, the ability to clean and remove allergen proteins and to prevent contamination or cross-contamination has become critical in maintaining safe products. An investment in equipment conforming to a highly respected hygienic design standard is an investment in the success of your company. Whether you're an equipment manufacturer or a baker, this is a win-win. It's a win-win for our industry and for the consumer. And aside from a smart business strategy or the ethical and moral perspective of conforming to an equipment design standard, there are specific regulatory reasons for certifying your equipment as well. The FDA requires compliance with hygienic design and states the requirement in FDA regulation Title 21, Section 117.4. FDA authorities have explained to the food industry that if product contamination causes injury, or if a foodborne illness is caused by inadequate equipment design and cleaning, the end user of the production equipment will be held responsible for equipment that has not been built to conform to hygienic design standards. The end user of the equipment will bear the brunt of any legal action taken by the FDA. So it seems to me that it would make good business sense to help the end user of production equipment comply with federal regulations. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over these regulations. I know that may be the quickest way to lose an audience, but I want to make a point. And the point I'm trying to make here is that bakers undergo several third-party safety audits, food safety audits, from their customers and independent food safety inspection companies. They may have as many as 2 or 3 a month, sometimes more. And in some locations I've been to, they have individuals hired strictly, and their job is strictly to go along with regulatory compliance inspectors or third-party inspectors or customer inspectors. And there are several different kinds of certification inspection standards that they may be expected to comply with. All have requirements for verifying the equipment that they use in production has met the hygienic equipment design standards. The most common certification scheme for food safety inspection is the BRC Global Standard for Food Safety. This standard requires equipment to be constructed of appropriate materials and suitable for food contact. Another one of the most commonly used audit schemes is the SQF standard. And this standard requires the baker to have documented specifications for selecting and procuring equipment, procedures for purchasing properly designed equipment, and the ANSI standard, the ANSI Z50.2 standard, and the BEAG conformance process is an excellent method for specifying design criteria and documenting the fact that equipment meets the standard. And the IFS Food Safety and Quality Management System requires documentation that equipment is verified as conforming. The conformance certificate obtained by the BEAG process will help your customers comply with this and the other certification inspection schemes. Another win-win for you and the end user. So how do I certify my equipment? To start the process, you'll have to log on to the beaggroup.org website. That's agroup.org. It's BEAG Group with 1 G. And you follow these steps. The process is pretty well self-explanatory, but you must begin by becoming a member of BEAG. After you complete your profile, you can begin the process of internal conformance assessment. Right now, we're waiving the requirement to have an internal equipment evaluator, a certified internal equipment evaluator. And when we have our learning management system up and running, an individual from each equipment manufacturing location, not the overall company, but each equipment manufacturing location, will watch and review this educational program that will explain the ANSI Z50.2 standard in detail and cover the aspects of each standard and criteria. And at the conclusion, that individual will take a test based on what they have learned in the program. And when that test is passed, you will be entered into our database as an internal equipment evaluator. And you will be the one for your manufacturing site to perform the process of equipment assessment and determine conformity to the standard. The internal equipment evaluator certification will be renewed every 2 years. The internal equipment evaluator will fill out an application for the equipment items or models the company wishes to have certified. Individual equipment items are entered, or several equipment items that are considered to be the same model can be entered into or under a single application. But it's important to remember that different equipment considered to be the same model will perform the same function, but may differ only in size and capacity. So you can have several different models entered in under one specific application. When the application for internal conformance assessments submitted, the equipment assessment form is sent to the evaluator via email, and when completed, the form is submitted to BEAG. Upon review of the assessment form, the equipment is either accepted as conforming or rejected. If accepted, the certificate of conformance will be emailed directly to the equipment evaluator. If the evaluation is for an equipment item already in the BEAG system and the equipment has been modified, changed, you will be asked to complete a management of change form to determine if the changes have affected conformance to the standard. There's also an optional third-party evaluation process, and if you choose to use this process, you can consider it to be a higher form of certification and is done by an independent inspector. The process is the same, except that BEAG will have an independent inspector contact the client company and make arrangements for an on-site inspection of the equipment or the equipment items that you wish to go through this process. The cost of going through the process of internal conformance assessment is very reasonable, has not changed much since the BISC days. Membership is $455 and renewable on an annual basis. Applications for internal assessment per equipment item and per model designation is $275. The price of internal equipment evaluator certification is yet to be determined and will be renewable once every 2 years. And I need to mention that the applications for internal assessment are renewable on an annual basis as well. For the third-party conformance evaluation, the price of the inspection is $1775 plus the travel expenses incurred by the independent inspector. Membership will also be renewable each year, and equipment application will also be renewable each year in order to maintain the third-party conformance status, which is renewable every 4 years. If you want to maintain that third-party conformance status, you would have to have an independent evaluation performed every 4 years. Web advertising is $175 and renewable every year. And I'd encourage you to consider web advertising. With web advertising, you're going to be able to show what equipment items that you have that have been certified or third-party verified. Bakers have used this site in the past to identify equipment that they wish to consider for installation in their bakeries. And regulators and health inspectors have used this feature in the past to determine if equipment in question, for whatever, has been designed and certified to the ANSI Z50.2 standard. I probably get 1 or 2 inquiries by regulators or health inspectors on a monthly basis, wondering if a specific model made by a particular company has been certified. So that goes a long way in adding value to your service to your customers. And the ANSI standard is $45, and updates will be announced on the BEAG website.
Now